She sat across from me with a trembling lip and said, "I think I'm pregnant." My stomach dropped. We hadn't even been speaking for weeks. But now she wanted to talk about our future. Just days after I mentioned my crypto was finally liquid. Her hand brushed mine like nothing had happened. Everyone at the cafe watched like it was a reunion. It wasn't. It was a setup, and I was the ATM. My name's Darren, 29, tech freelancer, emotionally overdrawn. My ex, Julia, has two gifts, playing victim and playing house. When we broke up, I thought I'd dodged a bullet. Turns out, I just paused the chamber. She ghosted me for 2 months. No calls, no texts. Then, right after I told a mutual friend that I was cashing out some of my crypto, she reappeared, sweet, soft, needing to talk. She picked a public spot, wore the earrings I once gave her, and dropped the bomb. "I think I'm pregnant. I don't want money. I just want you to be involved." She said all the right things. But I've heard better scams from YouTube ads. So I smiled and pressed record. I hadn't heard from Julia in over 2 months. No, "How are you?" No birthday text. Not even a random meme at 2 a.m. Just silence. Like I'd been deleted from the app of her life. Then out of nowhere, "We need to talk. It's serious." That was the whole message. No emoji. No punctuation. Just those 5 words, sitting on my screen like a landmine. I didn't reply right away. Not because I was shocked, but because I knew her. Serious didn't mean someone died. It meant she wanted something. She picked the cafe we used to go to, the Bean Bar, East 5th. Same place she once told me. I could never lie to you. So yeah, ironic. I showed up 10 minutes early. Not out of nerves, out of strategy. I needed to see her walk in. I wanted to clock her body language before the performance began. She arrived 2 minutes late. Hair curled, soft sweater, the earrings I bought her on that Nashville trip. Props in place. Stage set. She smiled like nothing had happened. Slid into the seat across from me like we were just 2 old friends reconnecting over lattes. I waited. She ordered a peppermint tea, her fake go-to when she wanted to seem centered. The barista smiled at her. She smiled back. And I just sat there, hands folded, watching the room slowly bend to her rhythm. Then she said it. Softly. Like a confession. "I think I'm pregnant." The words didn't hit like a punch. They landed like wet cement. Slow, heavy, impossible to ignore. I didn't speak. Not right away. She took my silence as a cue to keep going. "I didn't want to tell you like this. I didn't know who else to turn to." Her eyes welled up. Just a little. Just enough. A couple at the next table looked over. I could feel the narrative forming around me. Sweet girl. Stunned guy. Unplanned life moment. Except this wasn't a life moment. It was a launch sequence. "I don't want anything from you," she whispered. "I just wanted you to know." Her hand brushed mine across the table. I looked down and noticed her phone, screen on, front camera facing us. Recording. She was recording this. Not for memories. For leverage. We sat in silence for a moment after she dropped the line. "I think I'm pregnant." Like she'd just told me it might rain tomorrow. I didn't ask any questions. I just watched her, how she avoided eye contact, how she fiddled with her spoon like it was choreography. "I know this is a lot," she said softly. I didn't want to go through this alone." Her voice cracked on alone. I knew that crack. It was rehearsed. Julia never spoke unless she could control the echo. "How far along are you?" I asked. Simple. Neutral. Non-committal. She hesitated. "Not sure exactly. It's early, right?" I nodded slowly, pretending to digest it. But something didn't sit right. Her whole performance felt broad, like she was pitching to a bigger audience. That's when I noticed the way her phone was tilted, propped slightly against the sugar jar, camera still on. Still pointed at us. I reached forward, casually adjusted the salt shaker. Her hand darted out and moved it back, quick as a reflex. Smile didn't break. But the eyes, they flickered. Just for a second. Then she leaned across the table and placed my hand on her stomach. Soft sweater. No bump. No tension. Just fabric and warmth. Nothing else. "He's moving," she whispered. "Do you want to feel him?" I froze. Not because I believed her, but because it was such a perfectly designed moment. A public place. A gentle voice. A fake heartbeat between us. If I recoiled, I'd look cruel. If I stayed, I'd be complicit. I slowly pulled my hand away. "Julia," I said. "This feels fast." Her lips trembled. Her eyes glassed over. "I thought you'd be happy." A tear slid down her cheek. But she didn't wipe it away. She let it linger, camera facing side. For effect. This wasn't about reconnection. This wasn't about the baby. This was the dress rehearsal for a viral post. He abandoned me when I told him I was pregnant, and I wasn't giving her the ending she wanted. Let me know when you've seen a doctor, I said, calmly. With actual paperwork. She looked stunned. Not angry. Not hurt. Surprised. Because I didn't fold. And because that meant I probably knew. 2 days later, I got a DM from someone I hadn't talked to in months. Alicia, Julia's old roommate, occasional brunch friend, and one-time shoulder to cry on during our breakup. Her message was casual. Too casual. Hey, Darren. Sorry to reach out like this. Just wanted to say I heard about everything, and I hope you're okay. Julie is really overwhelmed, but I think she just wants peace. No drama. No drama. From the woman who just fake-filmed a pregnancy announcement in a crowded cafe. I didn't reply right away. I scrolled through Alicia's profile, which was conveniently public. Mostly travel pics, aesthetic coffee shots, and those quote graphics that say things like, "Your peace is sacred." But one post stood out. It was from last weekend, 2 girls on a couch, drinking wine. Julia and Alicia. Julia was holding a phone. Alicia was wearing my old hoodie. In the reflection of the wine glass on the table, barely visible. The cafe menu. I zoomed in. Matched it. Same one from our talk. They had rehearsed it. They had practiced how it would look, how Julia would break the news, and how I'd be framed in the story. This wasn't a meltdown. It was a production. And Alicia? She wasn't reaching out for peace. She was feeling the water, testing if I'd sink, stay still, or bite. So I responded. Appreciate the message. I'm good. I've got everything I need. Short, cold, measured. She saw it within a minute. Left me on scene. And within the hour, Julia's story changed. Now it was, I might have misread the test. Still waiting on confirmation. Please respect my privacy. Classic pivot. Stage 2. Victimhood with vagueness. But this time, I took screenshots. Comments, edits, timestamps. Because I knew where this was going. And the more I stayed quiet, the more they'd talk. That's what manipulators do. They narrate louder when the other side says nothing. What they didn't realize. I wasn't silent because I was scared. I was collecting receipts. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of what Julia said, but because of how well she'd said it. Every word had been choreographed. Every gesture timed. This wasn't improvisation. This was execution. I opened my laptop and started digging. Old habits die hard. Especially the paranoid ones. Back when we were together, we used a shared Google Drive for everything. Photos, travel plans, meal prep templates. We weren't just a couple, we were a brand. She'd stopped using it after the breakup, but she never revoked my access. And buried 3 folders deep, inside a subfolder labeled Fitness PDFs, I found something weird. Cycle tracker, archived. Last modified, 3 days ago. My curiosity flared. I clicked it open. Inside were a few generic spreadsheets, period dates, symptoms, calendar notes. Normal, at first glance. But one file stood out. Emergency_access.pdf. My stomach tightened. It opened to a step-by-step guide. Not for fertility, not for health, but for wallet recovery. Titled in bold. How to retrieve crypto if Darren gets paranoid again. Sections included. How to access his MetaMask when he's sleeping. Seed phrase checklist, hidden in bookmarks folder. Convincing him to co-parent and regain trust. She even included a script. If I say I forgive you, he'll relax. Start with you've changed. End with this baby deserves better. My hands shook, not from fear, but fury. She wasn't just lying. She was planning to rob me. Emotionally, digitally, completely. I checked the document history. It had been edited by a Google account ending in alicia.lifestyle at something. Of course, this wasn't just manipulation. It was collusion. They were building a path, not to me, but to what I had. My money, my name, my silence. Well, 2 out of 3 was all they were going to get, because now I had evidence, and I wasn't going to let it rot in a forgotten folder. I used to think Julia was just a little intense. She cried easily. She always needed to talk things out. She hated silence, said it made her feel abandoned. At the time, I saw it as vulnerability. Now I know it was calibration. She was learning my emotional temperature, testing which buttons worked, which silences made me cave. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. The time she asked to borrow $600 to cover rent, then posted vacation photos from Miami 2 days later. The way she once staged a panic attack when I said I needed space. The night she told me, "You're the only person I've ever trusted." Right after I caught her logging into my laptop without asking. Each time, she made me feel like the villain for doubting her. That's the thing about emotional abuse. It doesn't start with a slap. It starts with a whisper, a guilt trip, a look, a single phrase said in a tone that makes you question your own memory. I never said that. You're just sensitive. Why would I lie? Now I could see the full arc. This wasn't about the crypto. Not really. It was about control. The money was just the end game, the visible prize. But the real currency had always been my trust. And the scary part? She almost had it back. That cafe scene? If I hadn't noticed the phone camera, if I'd let emotion override suspicion just once, I might have been pulled back in. For good. It wasn't just manipulation. It was reentry. A way to reset the narrative. I'm pregnant. You owe me care. You owe me access. And worst of all, you owe me silence. But not this time. This time I wasn't going to fight her lies with love. I was going to fight them with records.pdf. I needed a second pair of eyes. Someone outside the story. Someone I could trust. So I called Ethan, an old friend from college, now working cybersecurity for a fintech startup. We hadn't talked in a while, but when I told him it was about a potential crypto breach tied to personal manipulation, he cleared his calendar. We met at his office, all glass walls, plants, and energy drinks. I brought my laptop, external hard drive, and a printed copy of Julia's emergency_access. Ethan skimmed it, eyebrows raised. This is a heist plan. Not even subtle. I nodded. She's trying to get access through emotional leverage. Fake pregnancy, guilt play, co-parenting trap. He leaned back. You've got partial proof. Now we make it irrefutable. First, he walked me through exporting all my seed phrases, cold wallet logins, and two-factor backups into secure air-gapped storage. Then, we traced every location and IP that had accessed my accounts in the last 6 months. Bingo. A suspicious login pinged from a coffee shop in Westwood. Same timestamp as the reunion cafe visit with Julia. That's her, I said. Ethan nodded. And this proves intent. We compiled a full digital dossier. PDF files with metadata. IP trace logs. Screenshots of Julia's pregnancy posts and edits. Alicia's involvement via file access. A full timeline with dates, changes, and inconsistencies. I saved the whole thing to an encrypted drive. But I wasn't ready to go to the police. Not yet. I wanted Julia to see it first. Not to warn her. To trap her. So I texted her the next morning. Hey, I've been thinking. You were right. We need to talk. I want to be part of this. But only if we're honest. She replied in 5 minutes. OMG, Darren. I'm so glad. Let's meet. I picked the place, my apartment. Neutral ground. My cameras. My setup. She didn't know I'd have Ethan in the next room, monitoring her phone's Wi-Fi signature. She didn't know I'd sync the mic in my living room to live transcription. She thought I was coming back into the story, but I was writing a new ending. She arrived with wet hair and soft makeup. I didn't try too hard. Look, that takes at least an hour. Julia hugged me at the door like nothing had ever happened. Thanks for giving me a chance to explain, she whispered. I nodded, offered tea, played calm. The living room was clean, couch fluffed, lighting neutral. She didn't know the mic above the bookshelf was already recording, or that Ethan was behind a partition wall, laptop open, watching her phone linked to my Wi-Fi. We sat. So, she said, I saw a doctor. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded paper. Here's the confirmation. I thought, maybe you'd want to see it for yourself. I took the paper slowly. No header. No physician name. Just a positive symbol and her name scribbled at the top. A fake. That's good to know, I said evenly. What's the due date? She blinked. They're still calculating. It's early. You know how it is. Sure. I set the paper down. Julia, why'd you do it? She froze. Do what? The cafe. The phone on the sugar jar. The phrasing. The tears. All of it. Her smile faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. You were recording me. No. Then why was the camera on? She opened her mouth. Closed it. I continued. And why did I find a file titled Emergency Access? Why does it include recovery phrases for my MetaMask? Why does it mention Alicia? Now she looked cornered. Not sad. Not confused. Exposed. You went through my stuff? She hissed. It was in our shared drive. The same one you forgot to unlink. You left a blueprint, Julia. She stood up fast, grabbing her purse. This is insane. You're paranoid. And yet, I said, pulling out a USB stick, here's a full report. With timestamps, file edits, and IP traces. Want a copy? She stared at it like it might burn her fingers. You're bluffing. Then call my bluff. Silence. Then, a flicker of rage in her eyes. You always thought you were smarter. No, I said. I just finally stopped loving you. She left without another word. Door slammed. 30 seconds later, Ethan emerged. Got her phone ID. Logged the attempt to connect to your Wi-Fi. We're good. I leaned back. She came here thinking she still had control. But this time, she was just another entry in the evidence log. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone was buzzing nonstop. Notifications, mentions, DMs, missed calls from friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Julia had posted a long, heartfelt caption on Instagram. Black and white photo of her hand resting on her stomach. Sometimes love turns cold. Sometimes people walk away when you need them most. I never asked for much, just honesty. But now, I'll raise this child on my own. For those who've been betrayed and silenced, this is for you. Hashtag single mom, hashtag truth matters. Over 300 comments in under an hour. Sympathy, support, hatred directed at me. If he can't step up, he shouldn't have stepped in. Men like that don't deserve to be fathers. Expose him, girl. Don't let him get away with this. She'd won the first round. I was the villain again, not for what I did, but for what I refused to believe. But what Julia didn't expect. I'd already prepared a quiet counterpunch. I didn't post a statement, didn't rant, didn't even tag her. Just uploaded a simple 3-slide post to my own page. Slide 1. A screenshot of the file title, emergency_access.pdf. Slide 2. Metadata showing Alicia's email as the last editor. Slide 3. A cropped image of her fake pregnancy test confirmation, with the stock template watermark still visible. Caption. Sometimes silence lets lies grow. Other times, it's just the wind-up. No hashtags. No drama. Just facts. And people noticed. First a few comments. Then DMs. Then one of her followers, a wellness coach with 200K subs, reposted my story with the caption, "Careful who you crown a victim." By noon, the tide had turned. Julia deleted her post, then deactivated her account. Alicia went private. Several mutuals unfollowed them both. And I made coffee, sat in the sunlight, and watched it all settle. Because when someone tries to destroy you with fiction, you don't need louder words. You just need the truth, sharp and still. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text. An actual letter, handwritten, shaky, for pages long. Julia. She started soft. I know I made mistakes. I panicked. I felt abandoned, and I didn't know how to ask for help. She pivoted to guilt. I never meant to take anything from you. I just thought maybe we could fix things, be a team again. For the future. For what we had. She ended with bait. I haven't stopped thinking about you. If you still believe in second chances, maybe we could talk. I folded the letter. Set it aside. Didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I was done. I'd already filed a quiet report through a private digital fraud channel, with Ethan's documentation attached. No police. No charges. Just enough to blacklist her quietly from future platforms that mattered. I also transferred my crypto to a cold wallet, burned every old login, wiped every shared account, and set a legal block on any third-party recovery attempts tied to my name. It wasn't revenge. It was closure, encrypted and final. Alicia, meanwhile, had reached out to clear the air. I left her on read. Some people don't deserve answers. Only absence. I changed my locks. Changed my number. Changed the part of me that used to apologize for being careful. Now I knew better. Love isn't trust at first sight. It's pattern recognition. And her pattern was over. I saw her once after that. Months later, in a grocery store parking lot. She looked at me like she might say something. But I kept walking. Because when someone fakes a life with you just to rob you, you don't give them another scene. You let the credits roll. In silence. Would you have answered her letter? Or just let the story end?